Sarah Geiger is a senior Girl Scout and is working on her Gold Award to create a local garden to hold native plants and flowers that are pollinator friendly and have bee houses for native mason bees. She has designed and built a pollinator habitat and purchased and installed pollinator plants for the garden. And she will now proceed with the educational sessions and making of a website. Brian Samard is the Director of Development for College Settlement Summer Camps and wanted to establish new hives for the summer camp this year. They have purchased and installed 2 beehives on the grounds of their educational center. They hosted 600 campers this summer, and they used the hives to instruct and to delight the students. The idea was they're bringing inner city kids out to the countryside. This is a bee, it won't kill you, into the hives. So it was a nice project. That is completed. And that was not very much money. We've also sent a grant to Malvern Prep. They were seeking to expand their existing apiary, buy native plants for the garden, buy bees, beekeeping equipment, and hives. They have a beekeeping club run by seniors who educate the rest of the school. So they installed packages in the spring, bringing the apiary back up to 5 operational hives. They replaced a queen due to a poor laying pattern. Student engagement has increased. They treat the hives with Formicro and Apivar and building up hive weight for the winter. Any questions on the grant program? Thanks for your attention.
Thanks, Paul. The Save the Bee Fund also made some donations this year, right? Just to mention that briefly. You made to 3 organizations, 2,000 to Bondsville, 2,000 to Cheslin, and 2,000 to Springton Manor. So yeah, so $6,000 of Save the Bees money went to those 3 organizations. So it was a great year for the CCBA to be giving grants out to our local partners. So very happy about that. And again, as of January, whatever our balance is in our regular operating fund, 15% of that balance will go to grants next year. So it really feels good to do that. And just to let you know that some of your membership dues will be going to that. We won't be increasing dues either next year. So I don't know how many years despite everything else going up in price, the CCBA for renewing dues will only be $15 for 2022. I guess that's good news considering the cost of everything nowadays. The president report, I don't know. I think we're doing well. You know, my thing as president is I wanted to do 2 things. I want to get member engagement. You know, the club's only as good as the members are engaged, and we're providing things that the members want to be engaged in. You know, I think we've done a decent job with that this year, despite the challenges out there, the pandemic. There's been lots of highlights and lots of good things this year. So I think member engagement's good. The other thing I wanted to do more this year for the club was to do more community engagement. You know, I think we're really good at treating our bees and taking good care of our bees and educating ourselves. But I definitely wanted to do more with linking to the community. I think we've done a little bit of that. Obviously, you heard Kathy, and we did the helicopter museum. But I think a lot of the places have shut down a little bit, so that's been a challenge. It's one of my goals next year. We're trying to set up some apiaries at some different locations that will have more access and engagement with the public, because I think, you know, it benefits all of us to have the public, you know, more informed about what beekeepers are and the good that beekeepers do. So, but other than that, I think membership's at an all-time high. We had good use of the mating yard this year with people bringing nukes out. I think that more people use that mating yard this year than they've had in the past. Bee chat's going strong. We've done 80 some, I don't know how many bee chats in a row we're up to. We had 40 members on last night, which was awesome. So, you know, thank you to all those people who joined that. Our live streaming has been amazing. You know, I mean, I think all of us, hopefully, we benefited when we used it in the conference. We've done live at the Hive. We've done other educational things using our live streaming. Mark's here today, and Mark's surely the backbone of all this. Rick Davis and Chris Thistlewaite have been sort of instrumental in making this go. This has been a huge investment. The club has invested about $6,000 worth of live streaming equipment just so we're able to, reach the members who can't come out and be present with us. We've just sort of tapped the surface of the potential of this. So, hopefully we'll be seeing more of this live streaming. Again, just all kinds of good stuff. I mean, the conference was amazing this year. It's hard to believe that that was March, that it was this year. It seemed forever ago, but the feedback we got and just the recognition we got for putting on that conference was absolutely amazing. Very, very proud of that. And the number of members continues to grow. I mean, we're up over 500 primary members and up over 700 total members. So surely there's a lot of interest out there in beekeeping, and pretty much, I'm sure we're telling people, if you keep bees, you really should. If you keep bees in Chester County, Delaware County, or anywhere else around here, you probably should join the Chester County Beekeepers Association. Your bees are going to be happier and healthier for it, for sure. So I think we have a good reputation out there in the community of people that are doing good education and good community outreach, and hopefully we can continue that. So that's kind of what I see as the as sort of where the CCBA is going. I'm not supposed to do this. It's on the what? Mark, go ahead, Mark. I'm sorry. I skipped you.
You did. I feel slighted.
Don't feel slighted. Feel like.
Okay. So I'm gonna jump a little bit more on what Jack just talked about with bee law, because that was several talks at the State Beekeepers Conference last Saturday and Sunday. There was a lot talked about, and it's really, really important for us. One of the things that the registration that you talked about, right? Everybody needs to register the hives, get a license for their hives. The estimate right now is just over 6,000 registered beekeepers. But the estimate is that there's something between 12 and 18,000. So we're a little underrepresented. And that also relates back to, if you're not a member of the Pennsylvania State Beekeepers, then their numbers are down. And when the legislature starts getting advice from us, well, you only represent 6,000 beekeepers. Now, actually, you don't. That's the people licensed through the state. Pennsylvania State Beekeepers only has several, it's under 1,000, 700 to 1,000 members. So your constituency that you're representing as the Pennsylvania State Beekeepers Association is much lower. Why should we listen to you?
But it's the biggest voice we have.
But it is the biggest voice we have. And it's an important one for us to continue to support. We had, from Chester County Beekeepers, we had a lot of folks there. Greg was there, Keith and Sharon were there, Jack and I, my wife Carla were there, Justin and Jesse, Ed Peters, Jeff Eccles was there, shocking, a state beekeeper at the conference, Daryl Barkhouse, Frank Rutkowski, and that name will come up here in a minute because they also had elections last week. And so Steve Rapowski, after 5 years as the president, is no longer the president. He's the past president and is very proud to wave that past president, just like Keith is, past president, right? And Merle and many others. So the new president of PSBA is Mark Gingrich, replacing Steve. Steve Fink replaces Mark as first vice president. He's Pottstown, I think. Kutztown, thank you. And Mark Gingrich is around the Harrisburg area. He said he's capital area York, between Harrisburg and York. Yeah, okay. Anyway, kind of south central PA, southeastern central, somewhere in that area. The treasurer remains Bob Tatro. The secretary which Bob used to be secretary treasurer, has been split. And so the new secretary is Regina Roa. And
Secretary of Government.
yeah, she's also secretary of Mako. And some guy named Frank Rutkowski is the second vice president of the state association. So one of our own. Hoo-ah. Let's see, go back to the B law. Currently, the law is 6 pages long. It's estimated to be in excess of 40 pages when they're done with it this time, because it's not just honeybees. As Jack said, it's pollinators and plants. It's a protection act. They are talking about a tiered licensing system. So if you've got, and we don't know what those numbers are, what those tiers will be. But if you've got less than 10 or 6 or 5 or whatever the number is they choose, then your cost will be lower for licensing than someone that's running 10,000 hives. That's the feel that we're getting on that. They're also talking about some kind of licensing for queen, nuke, and package sales, which currently isn't licensed, right?
No additional fee.
No additional fees. And again, the 7 inspectors, you said 25 is what they're
Yeah,
shooting
I mean,
for?
One of the reasons that we want to support this hive, and the legislator is going to look at the budget and how many inspectors they can afford. We support the law and say they need more inspectors, we may get it. One of the recommendations that came out of the meeting that the state apiarist, Karen Rokaseca, and the PSBA is going to take to the people making this decision is that, maybe there will be those of us who have used the services of the state inspector know that this isn't like, Big Brother coming to see what you're doing wrong. They are a great resource. They help us with our bees. They teach us. So one of the recommendations that was put forth at that meeting is that maybe they set a fee for the inspectors to do what they were originally designed to do. Random checks on each hive every other year to look for disease, and if they find American foul brood, they'll do all the hives within a mile and a half, 2 miles, whatever it is, 3 miles, and have the base fee cover that. And then anyone who wants the services of a state inspector to come out and help them with their hives, not because they suspect AFB, but they just, something's not right, I'd like to get an opinion. Maybe have a fee for that separate inspection. Okay, so
Yes.
that way it's to pay for the service that you're getting.
But again, all of this is leaning. This is what we think they're going to do. This is what they indicated that they wanted to do. What actually happens will be coming out in some of the draft language will be out in late December, and we'll go to the legislature in January.
But it
So
may take 2 years.
it may, yes,
Final, like every other law.
like every other law.
But the more we can get input into what we'd like to see in this law, the better the outcome will be.
Yeah, exactly. And then finally, as part of my VP report, if you know anybody that wants to help out here in the AV side, and I got a great props for Chris Sim. Thank you very much every time he's here helping out, and I appreciate that. But if you got somebody that really, like a young person that needs some volunteer hours, come on. I know they're out there. They might be our grandkids or our great grandkids, but they're out there, and they can learn a lot too. Maybe not really good stuff, but they'll learn something. All right. I will say that the conference there was quite good. They had a lot of really good speakers. They also had a group of postdoctoral folks from Penn State that were there talking about many of the projects and programs that they are working on. We had, was it Clarence Collison spoke, I think, a dozen times. It felt like it wasn't that many, but it was certainly 3 or 4 different talks. Robin Underwood was a great speaker, had some great information that she was passing on. There was a cutout session by Steve Fink, who I mentioned earlier, the state apers, Karen Rukaseka. So it was just a lot of good talks, but more importantly, it was a great opportunity to talk with people from around the state. People that you normally just don't run into very often, given that they're in the Northwest PA and we're Southeast PA, and it's a hike. When you think about State College right in the middle, it's 3 hours for me. So it was good to meet and greet with everyone and share some ideas and some thoughts. So thank you, George.
Yeah. So we do need, I feel like I'm preaching to the crowd here again, and I hate doing it, but I'm going to rescue things less next year. And so what does that mean? We just need more hands in the pots to help make things go. And one of the things that I feel like is the AV support. Mark definitely needs some help with some of that, because he's here an hour early setting it all up, and there's a lot of people benefiting, and I'd hate to shut it off. I'd work so hard not to shut it off, but we just need more help. So again, if you're at all interested on the AV side of things, please talk to Mark. Next item is committee reports. I apologize. I did not tell the committee leads in advance that there was going to be a committee report. So I'm going to acknowledge the committee leads that are here and give them an opportunity to say something if they'd want. Again, I apologize that it wasn't prepared. We have 13 committees. The advance committee is Keith Jardine. Keith, I know Keith's around. You want to say anything, Keith, about the advance committee? No. Apiary is Tony Dambro. I don't believe Tony's here. You all know that the apiary got flooded and took a major hit. There are, I think there's 14, there was 37 hives and nukes there. And now there's 14, and I don't think all 14 are going to survive because some of the population's low. We're going to have an ask in the spring to help repopulate that apiary by people bringing frames of brood. Probably the details still need to be worked out. That apiary supports the apprentice program and also supports the queen program. So it does provide a vital resource for us. So please respond to that ask when it comes out. Beginners program is Tom McKinney and Russell Luck. I know Tom was going to be here. Is Russ here today? Oh, thank you, Russ. You want to say a brief word about the beginners group?
It was a great year, I think. We did a lot of folks that had 2 separate sessions. We're here in the hive with a detailed dive for a life of time. We're doing a separate one.
Yeah, no, thanks to Tom and Russ for running another successful beginners course. I think we had between online and in-person people, I think we had 40 maybe people sign up for the beginners course this year. So again, it's a huge thing that we do to support our beekeepers. Ray Walker, I think I saw Ray for citizen science. Do you have anything you want to say, Ray? Thank you.
Yeah, we have several documents that together this year. One being the annual census, second metrics around beekeeping. Chester and Delaware County. The second set of documents were around the electronic hive monitoring systems. We wrote some specifications, including weather station specs. We ended up purchasing the brood minder equipment and did some studies around nest regulation. Environmental conditions and some of the key events. And we're wrapping up this year with the honey harvest survey that's been completed and that's posted on the club's website. We also have a new lead for next year, Robin. Right here. Robin's graciously accepted the committee lead, so I'm looking forward to collaborating with Robin.
Great, thanks. Ray's done a phenomenal job the last 2 years getting this new committee off the ground, and we had 53% of the membership complete the census this year, which is great. So we really do get a pretty good understanding of what's happening locally with our beekeepers and our bees. Conference is Janie Gordon. Janie's not here today. I've got great news, really great news that we have a new, not great news that Janie's stepping down, but great news we found a new conference chair. Stephanie, she's parking the car. She'll be back. I'll give her. Coffee's here. Education, Daryl, I don't think I saw Daryl Barkhouse from Education. Again, you're gonna hear a lot about this thing called the Passport Program, which is going to be a collaboration between us and Better Bee on actually a passport that allows people to get involved in their own guided education about becoming sustainable beekeepers. So it's going to be a big thing next year, and we'll be rolling it out to the club. And again, we're going to be asking for people's feedback on that, because it's a new thing and we want to sort of make sure that we develop something that's useful. So this is the first time we've done a really cool partnership between industry and us in an effort. So very much looking forward to that. And Daryl's put a ton of time into that this year. Entertainments, Tracy and Chris, I don't think either one of them there. They did a great job with the auction early in the spring and then the gala. So, you know, hopefully next year we'll have more entertainment. We already heard from Paul on the grant program. Horticulture's Jesse and Carla. I don't think either one of them is here. Again, we had two plant sales. I don't know how many thousands of plants went out the door this year, but we'll have thousands of plants going out the door again next year. Both of them do a really fabulous job with organizing that. Innovation, Tim?
This week I'll be going out to East Lake for a presentation on the Beekeepers program, which is a nutrition and habitat online site that you go to. So you basically plug in your website, you basically plug in your apiary address and it'll tell you some insecticide levels and the foraging rates around the area. So it's a collaboration around 5 different universities throughout the country, and they're coming up with a new system. I'll be able to report back next month with the focus group feedback.
Thanks, Tim. Mentoring an apprentice is Walt. I think Walt is working today. I mean, the apprentice program's in its 2nd year. It's really a phenomenal thing that we have started, and Walt does all the behind the scenes work and pairing people up and doing some feedback sessions to make sure that's going okay. If you're a new beekeeper and this is you're thinking about getting into bees, or this is year 1, the apprentice program or the mentoring program are things you should strongly consider for sure. You're much more likely to become a sustainable beekeeper doing things that way. Nukes is Ed. Anything you want to say, Ed?
Sure. The mating yard went well. You know, we put a lot of nukes out there this year. Nuke sales, as far as the actual boxes, was amazing. We sold every box that we had. We're going to obviously try to extend that to this coming year, also with the discounted price that, you know, makes it reasonable for members to buy the nuke boxes. Last year was the first year for me in this position as the lead for the nukes. George was able to help me out, walk me through some of the steps, and next year I got some plans that'll make it easier for a lot of us. You know, now I know what we're doing. And then ultimately, I think what we're going to be doing next year, we had some issues last year with, well, I'm not saying issues with the nukes, but, you know, we want to implement some changes that'll help all the members maybe bring their nukes down, or, you know, we want to learn how to make nukes. So within the beginners class, we're going to incorporate the making of nukes, splitting your hives and stuff of that nature. That's what we got planned for next year.
Thanks, Ed. Queen breeding is Steve. Steve's not here today. If you do have queens, please report on your queens. If you have reported on your queens, Jack will be giving you your $15 of credit at some point in this fall when we get Jack the list. As soon we're working on the list. So for those of you who have reported on your queens and waiting for your $15 of credit on your Club Express account, it's coming your way. So thank you all, and the Queen program will surely continue next year. And our last and final committee is Woodworking. Ernest, is Ernest here today? Hey, Ernest, anything to report?
Yeah, we have a lot of people, or I'll say several people that's requesting horizontal hives. So
Yes.
if anyone this winter wants to bring their plans and get started on making horizontal hives, we can certainly do that. We still have our pollinator
Board.
put out there someplace. So they're ready to go. So, and I did mentor 3 people this summer. So 3 people is ready to take the test or whatever you do.
To get there.
So I got
Awesome. Thanks, Ernie. And thank you all committee leads for your work this year, and for being put on the spot this morning to do your reports. I'm gonna open up briefly to the membership, even though that's not on here. I don't know if anybody would like to comment or have any thoughts about the past year, or where the CCBA should be going in future years, or areas that you think we need to be going towards, or do more in, or do less in, or any thoughts that anybody has. I know I'm putting the membership on spot here, but this is our annual meeting, and want to make sure that the membership has the ability to comment, and it be recorded by our secretary and be taken back to the board. Yes.
Before you do, we would like to come to you.
Yes, please.
I just want to thank the board for the excellent job that they've done over this year and other years. I can't express enough how high of quality the education, the outreach has been from my looking in the outside in. And, you know, there's been a lot of members that I know of that have joined this club because it's the only club that has that high of quality of education. So I just want to thank all of you for the hard work, definitely a lot of it, for the excellent programming. It is, I think the membership would agree with me that you guys have done a great job.
Thank you. Any other comments from the membership?
George Stephanie's back. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I will. Nobody wants to tell us where we should be spending our money, or how we should be spending our money, or no? You got a comment, Chris? No. Okay. Well, you guys are letting me off easy. Sure. Okay. No, thank you so much. And we have so many talented beekeepers in this club, and it makes it easy to be president when you have so much talent, especially in the core group, to sort of disseminate the education and the interventions. And I just hope more people, step up and get involved next year. Hopefully, that there's still a lot to do and a lot to learn. So anyway, it's most days I love the job of being president of the club, and it's lots of fun to do, because I think the number of resources we have is tremendous, and it's very easy to be president of something that has a lot of great resources. So with that said, another great resource is
There are a couple of comments from online.
Yes.
Bulk purchase on mite treatments and sugar. That's Walt T is saying, can we do some more of that?
Okay.
Merle wants to add something, but Merle, we can't hear you. So you'll have to type it in the chat, and then I'll read it out for everyone.
I apologize for not acknowledging our online members today. So if any online member has anything they'd like,
Merle, if you just want to talk, I can type it up.
Type it in the chat. Paul's asking how many people
What
online.
it refers to is that last evening at Bee Chat, we had a
20.
very interesting
I
conversation.
think we got a quorum.
And
Yes.
what it
Yes,
had
Ernie.
to do with the amount of work, what it takes to
But I tried that and it worked.
Justin did.
operate
Yeah.
this club.
Kill those,
And there
kill
was
those
Yeah.
hive beetles, huh?
misunderstandings, and it was a lot of enlightenment. And
So
I think a
I'd
lot
like
of
to
people
introduce-
came away
most-
with a
most of you know
very
Stephanie and
different
Pat.
view
Stephanie and Pat are doing the food now.
of the management,
They've taken over that and they've done a
how
wonderful
the
job
club
with
works, and
with the
how much
snacks every
time is
meeting.
invested by the officers, especially by George.
And Stephanie
And,
has agreed to
that's
take
it.
on the conference chair role for 2022.
Perfect. Thank you, Merle. I'll add that to
So
the minutes
I
as well.
Stand up and say a brief word or two why you're a sucker. I mean, why you've decided to.
When you stand up here and you beg for help, at a certain point, it just gets embarrassing, and I felt like I could probably do a good job bailing you out. I don't know a lot about these. I feel like I've learned a lot really just from these meetings. And Pat and I have really grown to love the group. You know, like Carol invites me, I can come to your garden and steal some of your flowers next year. And like everybody's just been so welcoming to us. And that's one thing where I may not be a beekeeper. I may not be skilled at that. I may not have a lot of value like that there, but I'm a professional project manager. That's what I do for a living. I'm highly successful at it. I'm pretty organized. And this is something I feel like I can really contribute. I can drive this forward. I can get results, solve problems, and make sure that I can put on a show for you guys that we can have be both challenging for the really mature beekeepers who really know what they're doing. You guys are super advanced, but also appeal to some of the newbies like myself and the folks in the middle of the road. So that's my intent for this year. I will be reaching out for feedback, suggestions on speakers, vendors, anything that you have you'd like to share with me. I would love to hear it. And probably reaching out to a number of you to kind of pick your brains and get some thoughts, because I also haven't been to a conference before. So I'm going to kind of leverage your collective experience and the hive mind, yeah, to get me where I need to be.
Paul's done that role in the past as conference chair. Keith's been conference chair. Anybody else in the room's been conference chair? Yeah, so Ed Peters has been conference chair. So Janie's been conference chair for the last 2 years. So, I mean, Stephanie and Patrick are relatively new to the club, and they've been a great addition, and they're going to be asking, she's going to be asking for some help, you know, and I'd like to see, well, I'm not going to get negative. You know, we're going to get some new people on the conference committee this year. We need new people on the conference committee. There's a couple ideas floating around about some change, you know, because, you know, what we had in the past was great. What we did last year was great. Now, how can we take all of our learnings, you know, and sort of continue to make it really great? You know, last year's going to be awfully hard to top, because it was really special last year. So I look forward to a great conference, and you know, there's an expectation, you're taking a, you know, there's an expectation the CCBA delivers something that's high quality conference. So look forward to continuing that on for next year. So anyway, thank you, Stephanie, a lot. That's my biggest nightmare, is who's going to do that role. It really is.
Do we have a date for that yet?
No, unfortunately. So there's some, it's historically always been done the second Saturday of March. That's sort of the historical date of the conference. You know, the conference committee is going to get together and talk about sort of what they want to deliver next year, and whether or not that works best on that date or that works on another date. I guess we'll wait to hear. Yes.
Okay, I got a note here. What Merle was referring to is that last evening there was an interesting conversation on BChat, the amount of work and what it takes to operate this club. There was a lot of enlightenment, and I think a lot of people came away with different view of the management, how the club works, and how much time is invested by the officers and by George. So that's.
Thank you, Merle.
Yeah, Merle. Kathy typed it, but That's Merle's. Okay.
If anybody's up at 3:30 in the morning and wants to chat bees, send me an email. I'm up, and usually that's when I start my CCBA work at 3:30 in the morning. So, no joke.
And another comment from Tracy: is the club this year going to mix up solution for the oxalic dribble for mite treatment?
Yes. So that's a definite yes. So we will be doing oxalic dribble. We'll consult with the gurus and the experts about when the exact day of that should be, but yes, sometime before the new year, we will probably be having the oxalic dribble available. Do you have a date yet, Keith? I turned to Keith and Keith says, do it on that day. And I say, yes, sir. That's what day I do it on. Because I don't know any better. Yes. Usually that's about when we do it, sometime in the middle of December. So that's a great thing. And I'd like to, last year we collected coats for the holidays and made a donation of winter coats. I'd like to do something again this year. I don't really have an idea yet, but I think it's nice to do something for the local community. So if anyone has any ideas of what we could do that could get back a little bit to someone in need, I'd like to do that this winter again. So that is moving on to number 13. The president then states that the nominating committee will announce the slate of candidates. Who the nominating committee consists of. I did not name a nominating committee, so Jack, you're the nominating committee. You can see where my strengths lie and where they don't lie.
So let me take off my judge of elections hat and put on my nominating committee hat. The nominees that we have for the board, we have 2 open seats on the board of directors. The nominees that we have are Marcy Bieber, Tim Ferriss, where are you hiding back there, Tim? And Ed Sharp. 3 nominees for 2 seats.
Why don't you at least stand up?
So I'd like to give, I don't know, is this my role to give? Again, the 3 of our nominees are great members. They all agreed to meet myself and Chris on a Saturday. And we did little videos and we posted them online. Raise your hand if you watch those online videos. Cool. Very cool. Thank you so much for watching those videos. We had a great time doing them. But for those of you who did not watch the videos, and what? Nah. Yeah, you could. What? Yeah, but I was going to give each. Should I give each candidate a moment or two? Yeah, so it's my meeting.
We do have to be out of here by noon because there is another event.
I hear you.
Just so you know.
But this is our once in a year annual business meeting, and I feel like we should do it right. So in alphabetical order, I don't know, Marcy can come up and introduce herself and say a little bit about herself and why she is running for the board seat. Thanks, Mark. You want to stand up here because that's where the cameras are and the mic is. And
well, good morning, Marcy Weaver, and this is my 2nd year as a member in the Chester County Beekeepers Association. I'm a teacher, so education is very important to me, and that's my main focus. If I was to be elected as a board member, I would focus on increasing the amount of education that's available as far as beekeeping itself, but also how we can support bees through native landscaping and spreading out the education sites. I'm up in Pottstown, so to drive down to George's farm, it's quite a commitment. It's a whole day. It's a whole day affair. And it would be nice if there were some satellite locations, put it that way. Thank you.
awesome. Thank you, Marcy. Anyone have any? Hold on, Marcy. Come on back, Marcy. Marcy. Get off that. Anyone have any questions for Marcy or anything anyone want to know? Any questions for Marcy? No, we're all good. Thank you. Next in the alphabet is Tim Ferris. Tim is also a candidate for the board. And Tim, you want to come up and tell us who you are and why you want to be on our board? Just to hang out with me, I know, but that's okay.
Thanks so much. Hey guys, my name's Tim Ferris. I run a few hundred hives, about 60 apiary yards around the area. So for me, it's more self-preservation. I want to see the club and the average member upskill. We've obviously had a outbreak with AFB in the area. With that, I run the gamma radiation program for about 4 states in the surrounding area. So one of the things that I want to do is make sure beehives are healthy throughout the entire area. And upskill. I do a lot of outreach with school programs, and I do a lot of hive cutouts as well. So one of the aspects on education is swarm management, which was a big thing we pushed this year, and I'll hopefully be able to push that more being on the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Any questions for Tim? Oh, you guys are a nice crowd today. And finally, the guy who eats stuff from the bottom board is Ed Sharp. Sorry, Ed.
I got 5 senses. I had to use one of them. I'm Ed Sharp. I'm also up in Pottstown area, beekeeper, backyard beekeeper. There's a couple of reasons I decided to join or decide to run for election for the board of what is it?
Director.
Yeah, board of directors. My bad. Yeah. One is, A, there was a spot available, so that was a start. But second is, the club, we have an amazing club. There's no doubt. I don't think anyone can deny that. And so part of it is to maintain what we have, and also is to take the club forward. Beekeeping in general is evolving. The club has to evolve with it. And part of my goal is to keep the Chester County Beekeepers Association up to speed, and with modern beekeeping. It's an antique hobby, and
They'll have you all eating off the bottom board.
yeah, and I just want to keep, like I say, my goal is to keep the CCBA up to speed, and whatever it takes to advance it, that's what I want to do.
Any questions for Ed?
I didn't taste.
Depends on what it is. Thank you.
Thanks, Ed. Okay, so now we're going to move towards the to the voting. New business. The first item of new business is voting for the board of directors. And we also have a constitutional amendment to vote for. So as you've heard, we have 3 candidates and we have 2 seats. The constitutional amendment is the current constitution says that the president of the association must come from the board of directors. So, and then the president is not only president of the association, but also chairperson of the board. So right now, in the last 2 years, I fulfilled both those roles, chairperson of the board and also president. It sucks, basically. It's not right. There should be 2 separate people. The president should not be sort of reporting to himself or herself as chairperson of the board. The president really should be reporting to the board, and the board should be, and the president should be working together. So the amendment is basically saying that the president doesn't need to sit on the board. The president can come from the membership, and therefore the board will elect its own chairperson out of the members of the board. And hopefully, in my opinion, I mean, they could still be the same person if the president is on the board, but I'd like to personally see it be separate people. So that's the amendment. Did I summarize it okay, Jack? Jack and Mark Supernatant, the 2 write all the Constitution and have been sort of writing the Constitution since day 1 of the club, right? Or day 1 of the Constitution, which was 2014 or something like that. Yeah, so just So, yeah, so that's the amendment. Any questions on the amendment? So if you're voting yes on the amendment, you are voting that the president does not need to sit on the board and the president could be come from the general membership. And if you vote no for the amendment, then the president has to come from the board. That's the amendment.
So it's simple, approve it or oppose it.
Yes. And so now we're going to go to Jack and Paul, who are the election judges. And I'm going to ask, do we have a properly executed board of direction nomination form from each candidate who is not an incumbent? Yes, thank you. The answer is yes. Are we 100% sure of that? Yes. Somebody has them. Do we have a quorum of 60 eligible members for the election to be valid between those present at the meeting and those who have joined virtually?
We need a quorum.
We need a quorum.
In order for the election to be valid, we need 60 votes. So between those who are here today and vote in person, and those who vote online, and the online voting will be open through tomorrow night, we must get 60 votes before the election is invalid.
Okay, so hopefully we'll get 60 votes. Otherwise, we will do this again. So please vote. Otherwise, we will join this business meeting again next month. We have the required minimum number of candidates for each open seat on the board. That would be a yes, thankfully. The current board seats that are open for voting are those that were held by Merle Stone and Tina McKinnick. Thank you for their service. Both of them have served 5 years now, 4 years, 5 years, something like that on the board. I need an election judge who will explain and read the process for conducting the election.
Okay. Those of you who have a paper ballot, for those of you who are here and have not yet gotten a ballot, you need to come see me to get a ballot. The ballot has two sides to it. One side is where you're going to vote either to approve or oppose the proposed amendment to the Constitution. The other side is where you're going to vote for members of the board of directors. There are two blank lines. You need to fill in two names between Marcy Beaver, Tim Ferris, and Ed Sharp. No write-ins are allowed. You must vote for one of the properly nominated candidates.
Do you have any?
Two of them,
Do you have any advice for the people online?
On the homepage of the website, right below the 3 videos of our candidates for today, there is a vote now button. The president will be opening the polls shortly. You can then click on that button and cast your ballots for the board of directors and vote on the proposed amendment from the homepage.
And those polls will be open till 8 p.m. on Sunday night, at which time they will close. You can only vote once. So don't vote here and then go home and vote again. Jack will know.
And both your votes will be disqualified.
And Jack does not mess around. So therefore, we are going to take some time to allow people to vote now.
Okay, so what we want to talk about today is something we haven't really talked about. A lot of beekeepers, they start off, they have maybe 3, 4, 5 hives. And over the years, what happens is they develop a business. Okay, so they start making a bit of money. You generate a bit of honey and you learn, you get certain markets, you start selling it. And your bee business, in fact, has either a little bit of positive, a little bit of negative over the years. And what I found with mine is that you're always improving. So you're getting a little bit better. You're doing it. You might increase with the number of hives. You might increase with the amount that you are getting in compared to the amount that you are outlaying. And what has disturbed us recently for the last almost 5, 6 years is we used to get calls to say, unfortunately, this beekeeper passed away. There's equipment over there. Come take it. And then we hold CCBA auctions. Now, the thing is, we look at this beekeeper that used to be a member of our club, and we realized that he had a proper going concern. He was selling honey, he was doing all the right things, and he probably had a turnover of maybe $10,000 a year. Unfortunately, with this one, is we'll find that as soon as things stop, the beekeeping business that he did have has accelerated to almost zero. So all the value of the business that he had is purely on maybe a couple of hives that have maybe survived. And maybe what's happened as well is the value of the cost of the equipment. So the hive bodies and so on. So you compare it, the value that he had when he was dealing with it is maybe so much, and the value of after 4 or 5 months or a year, or sometimes it's 2 years, is virtually nothing. Okay, so what we can talk about here is what's your bee business, what is it worth? Now, how much is it physically worth? How do you improve on your beekeeping business? And what is an exit strategy? And what would be, if you're looking to accelerate and you want to buy somebody's business, what would it be worth? So if you go in, it's a lot of people also try to say, look, I'm in this area, I'm going to go retire in Florida. What is your bee business worth? And is somebody prepared to pay you the money that it is worth? So how much do you make from it? How much can you make? Is it viable? And I think from my perspective, one of the most valuable things is your selling, your marketing, your revenue stream coming in is absolutely invaluable. And after being doing it for over here for 14 years, my weakness with my beekeeping business is probably marketing. So that's my one weakness. And the longer I do it, the better the number of people that I'm selling to actually increases and increases. So the bee business actually gets better and better. From my personal one is I make huge volumes of honey. Okay, so I make lots and lots of honey. My problem is selling. Okay, even if I look back when I started beekeeping, I was able to produce lots of honey. But I didn't like taking that honey and going to sell it. I actually had my younger brother would actually take the honey and I'd have to pay him and he'd go around and sell it. So over the years, I haven't been very good at that particular piece. But the most important thing here is isolating what is important in your bee business. What would a person buying your beekeeping business, what would they be prepared to pay? Is it a streamlined operation? Are you declaring tax? Do you declare it? Yeah. And that is one of the most important things is, you know, it's a legal business. With mine, I declare everything. So I go in, if I'm making so much money, I pay tax on it. So I declare it. Okay. It is really, really nice. I have this income coming in and I say, if I need something beekeeping related, yeah, it's part of this bundle that I'm making over here. So I can go buy a couple of inner covers or a couple of bottom boards. I can buy treatments. It's all coming from the beekeeping business. At the end of the year, you can say, I have made so much money and I've spent so much. And then you know this is a running business. So if somebody's looking to jump in, they have got a serious business that they can just step right into. The markets are there, you're selling this, and if something happened to me, my wife could just say, okay, this is the business, you've got this, these are the markets. You could sell the whole thing as a unit. What is this structure? Some of the most important things are apiary sites. Now, we all know from apiary sites, the strange thing is if you start an apiary site at a new location, it takes a few years to build up. I don't know if all of you have noticed this. If you can take over a site from an existing beekeeper that's been there for 10 years, that site is instantly valuable. Now, what's the reason for that? That's right. The bees have been pollinating all the resources in the area, so the plants are better. You don't even notice yourself. I mean, I had to move 10 of my hives from one apiary site to another apiary site. The apiary site was maybe 4 or 5 miles this way next to the Brandywine River. It looked beautiful. It looked absolutely amazing. You've got beautiful fresh water coming through there. You've got open meadows. You've got beautiful surroundings. I moved in the first year, those bees virtually starved. My harvest for 10 hives was in the region of about 60 pounds. Okay, for the whole apiary site. Okay, after 4 years, each hive is probably producing about 120 pounds. Okay, compared to that. So once you're in the area longer, the bees are pollinating the necessary plants in the area, and you get better and better and better and better. So having a site for a long time, sites become valuable. If you've got a good person, the landowner is really good, it's beneficial. Other things of value are pollination. So one of the things that I do is I team up with farmers. Farmers need pollination. So I'm the beekeeper at Highland Orchards. Is that worth anything? Yes, definitely. That is worth something. Not only that, but I sell my honey at Highland Orchards. So that there is a revenue stream. So you can see things like businesses going in, capitalizing on things that you learn, and also proximity. You don't want to have one apiary site 20 miles that way, the next one 40 miles that way. A lot of our traveling consumes most of the profit. You're wasting time in the car. You've got to go to them. So they must be in a sort of logical pattern. And again, the more streamlined you can be, the more profitable you can be, and the more value your beekeeping site has. And again, things do happen. I mean, we've dealt with a number of the beekeepers that have just closed down suddenly, and all this knowledge, all the selling, all the where do I get my bottles from? Where do you get, how do you extract? What is your market? Do they want glass? Do they want plastic? And so on. Things like farmers markets. To get into a farmer's market takes a long, long time. Now, the one that I'd like to get into is maybe very close to where I live, and that is Westchester Farmers Market. The unfortunate part about that is there's a beekeeper there already, and there's been a beekeeper there for 20 years. How do I get into that? We don't need another beekeeper. So something like a farmer's market location is absolutely invaluable. Now, when somebody passes away, okay, that beekeeping business, which would be his farmer's market, would be his marketing area that he has. He might even be selling to stores and so on. All of that gets lost. And maybe an opportunist beekeeper in the area has then responded to it and moved into that instead of him owning it as a value. Now, your turnover, let's say that you do make $10,000 a year. Okay, assuming you make it, what is your beekeeping value? If you're to sell it, what is the actual value of it? Presuming you're selling virtually everything, what is the value? Okay, so if we had to look at it now, looking from an accounting perspective, you're selling $10,000, and that's you could do $10,000 on, I would even say, if you had 20 hives. I think you probably could do that. 25 hives or so, you probably could do about 10,000. Okay, so 20 hives, you could do 10,000. Okay, and what is the whole value of that? So if I have $10,000, you'd probably easily be able to sell that for 3 times the value. So it's probably the business value will be 30,000. Obviously, your business value also is determined on your beehives, your equipment, your extractors, everything to deal with that size of operation that you've got. Now, if you look at your beehives, if I just sell my hives now, if I just say, look, I want to reduce by 50%, what is a production hive worth? What is it worth now? Okay, the value of a hive now is probably in the region of $100. If I had my hives now and I want to sell them, I could sell them to somebody for $100, maybe 120. Okay. In springtime, around about April, once most of the beekeepers realize that they've lost their hives, they forgot to treat, and they don't have any more, your hives go from $100 to $400 value. I could sell sell production colonies in the springtime for $400. ready to go. In fact, I did this beginning of this year. I said, I've got too many hives. I don't want that apiary site. And I sold every hive over there, and they were sold within a day. One day. I said, there are 10 hives. Who wants them? $400 a hive. Just like that. Boom. 2 deeps, big booming colonies, and they were gone. Okay. So which means the respective value of when you sell it, how you sell it. The other thing is, if you're selling a beekeeping business, the beekeeping business is valued more if you've got everything as a going concern. The person buying it. So if you've got 100 hives, you probably should be able to do about $60,000, $70,000 dollars per year. And if you can have a prospective buyer to work with you for maybe 6 months of the year, that increases the value. Okay, so when they take over, they can see how everything works. I might have strange quirks. I mean, I had a complaint from somebody buying one of my hives and said, you cheated me. I've noticed that in every deep that I bought from you, there is a medium frame. Okay. Yeah, so I had to then go and say, this is a management technique that is really, really good. You put a medium in as one of the frames, as frame on frame 3, and he said they're always in the same position. Okay. And what's the reason for that? That's your mites. You're getting rid of drones. You slice the drones off them. So they think they've been shafted a little bit, but it's actually management techniques. That's why if you sell a beekeeping business, it's good to establish some type of training for the person buying it. Okay. As you get bigger, now what is the ideal number for a sideline business in our area? What is the ideal amount and how much could you make from that? What I do is I keep about 100 hives. And it's strange, I think, is 100 hives. How many of those hives are actually honey production hives? And this caught me a bit by surprise. In fact, only 70 of those, and I realized that from the survey that we do, I only have 70 of those hives devoted to honey production. Okay, liquid honey. That's why these surveys are a little bit weird. You fill them in and you realize, I can't be producing that. I'm sure I'm producing more than that. And I realized only 70 of those 100 hives are actually full production hives because I produce comb honey. Okay? So comb honey is not the liquid honey, that's you're producing comb. So I've got 7 hives devoted to that. Then you do queen rearing. With queen rearing, you're feeding. So you're doing liquid feed with sugar water, and I can't put that into the honey harvest. So I've got certain ones devoted to that particular thing. Then what I do is you have some what we call dinks. Sometimes your hives just don't accelerate. And I have maybe out of 100, there are probably 1 per apiary site. So you'll have one that doesn't accelerate. Okay. One doesn't build up. Okay. In a site. And we know the reasons for it. We know what happens, but it's difficult in the season to get this one to ramp up because they need added resources. You can equalize, but so in mine, I have 70 production hives and they will produce, this last year, they produced probably, it's 124 pounds per hive. Okay, I can do that. But if somebody else takes over my beekeeping business, would they be able to do the same thing? Do they do the same beekeeping strategy I do to try and maximize honey harvest? What would they do? They might become what we term the lazy beekeepers, where they say, you don't really need to inspect every week. Let's make it every 3 weeks. Now, it's a lot less labor intensive, but then your honey harvest will drop because you're losing loads of swarms. So your management techniques. Now, what happens if on all these other pieces, with the beekeeping, there's a lot of revenue streams that come in. Okay. And just to say, with my 100 hives, just on the products of the hive, I'm probably exceeding 50,000, just as a ballpark figure. Okay. So how much is my business value? You have other revenue streams that are not included in there. As a beekeeper, you are knowledgeable. You do cutouts. So a certain time of the year, as soon as the honey slows, you do cutouts. A cutout on average, you're charging $500. to go to somebody's house, make a big hole in the wall, rip out stuff, and have fun. Use a lot of smoke and scream and annoy the neighbors, and that type of thing. It's quite fun, but that's a revenue stream coming in. Okay, so you can do those cutouts. Another huge revenue stream is if you're a successful beekeeper, you sell your nucleus hives that you've overwintered, and you can split your hives. What I don't do, which you could maximize the revenue that you earn, is I could buy queens. So my hives survive, and if I got nukes, sometimes those nukes are a lot bigger. So I could take a nuke and split it into 2 or 3, and then I can give each one a queen, leave the original queen. So then I have 3 hives that you can sell for your $200. So if I've got, let's say, I average about 30 nukes going through. So that's a completely different revenue stream. That's making money out of your success. And you can see, you can add this up, and you can eventually tally that the amount of revenue that you're getting from this is way over than more than what your honey sales are. So there's a lot of other little pieces. If you breed queens, you can sell the queens. Good, well-bred queens, you can sell those as well. So a lot of different revenue streams. And the thing is to design your exit strategy. So what is your exit strategy? You've got your beehives, you've got everything there. How do you capitalize on this? Because what normally happens, and with all of us, we probably get to a stage where we maybe ill health or something is happening in your bee yard, and you're not physically able to tend to them, the value goes down. When is the stage where you say, let me sell it? Okay, let me do this. I've got a running bee business. I only have 5 hives, but let me sell it as a business. And who is prepared to pay for that? If somebody can see, look, you are earning, you're making 50,000 or maybe more than that. If they can see the physical value of that, they might say, that's a lot more attractive than me doing my present job. That might be a lot better. How does this guy do it who's been doing it for so many years? How does he do it? Can I work with him and be my own boss? Okay. So a lot of you must look at this in your beekeeping business and say, what is my exit strategy? How do I get out of this? Can I link up with somebody who's keen to do this and they start as a running business? So your thing now is to record at the moment. You record everything. You declare tax, okay, receivable revenue. You make sure that everything is declared and you pay the tax, okay. Also, because you're making money, you don't want to pay too much tax. So if I go to the Pennsylvania Beekeeping Association, as this last week, my business pays for the hotel. They pay for all the fees there. If I want to buy a fancy extractor, I don't care. I just pay for it. There it is. If I've got on my bee truck, I need a cap to go over it. Oh, bee business, yeah, it's $3,000. Who cares? That's it. Onto that. I can pay for it, increase the value of all the items. So anything you want, new uncapper, yeah, let me get it. The money revenue's coming in, but the main thing is to get the true value when you eventually opt to do the exit strategy. And then advertise it as a bee business, all the things, your apiary sites, whatever you have, that is it. So sell the whole thing. The other side, there's a lot of other avenues of revenue stream. We know that we do things like candle wax. So you make candles, cosmetics. We do a lot of the cosmetic side. There's a lot of very interesting little pieces. Then you might get into, do you sell your recipes? Okay, so if you've got a recipe, do you want to sell the whole thing as a unit or do you not? Okay, so, and again, once you go through this, you need to get a price. How much is it actually worth? What is it? And then concentrate on your marketing, on your, get everything clean. So everything's declared. So all the little pieces are there. So somebody can walk in and say, how much you're making. They can see from, and one of the most important things that we've learned is when we go ahead with this, we work with something called Square. Okay, that's a little software that runs and it does the point of sale. So in other words, I'm selling at the farmer's market. Somebody said, I want this jar of honey. We've got a little barcode scanner. On the label is a barcode. click on it. This gets recorded onto your iPhone or your iPad or your computer and everything. So every day that you look at it, you've got these sales, it's all recorded. So if you're selling it as a business, you can say, on a Saturday, I can make $500. Okay. And they can see it. Everything's visible. So it means it's a viable piece of evidence for the selling price that you'll have. Okay. Any questions? Yeah, what I do is I get insurance. We dealt through the club over here. We got people to come talk to us about APRI insurance and business insurance. And something like it is a piece of glass that gets into the liability if somebody glass inside your honey and so on. So there are very good APRI insurances that you get. Surprisingly, there are very few claims against honey. So they're very willing to do it. And that's a very important thing. You say, look, are you insured? Okay, and you can show, here's the evidence, here's my insurance. And if I need to sell at a property, I have to hand in that insurance and I can ask the insurance company for a certificate and then they apply it to, like my Highland Orchards one here, they have to do it. You've got to obviously sign some papers. You're not going to sue them if you get injured on their property and so on. So there's a couple of little legal stuff that you've got to do. Yeah. So if you're selling nukes, it's very easy. You just go to Jeff Eccles, and that's another little piece. All of these are little pieces in the puzzle to be able to sell your business as one unit. Okay, so you will get selling nukes, selling queens. You get a license. It's quite fun. Jeff Eccles comes around, you have a big chat, and he looks at your bees, and then gives you a certificate, and it's And the other thing is, mainly, this is applicable to all beekeepers over here. You'll notice there are different trends. And even in the club, you'll notice there's certain things that will get prevalence. I think the one that really irritates me now is that there's a trend to say, oh, you don't need an entrance hole at the top. Okay. You find out what works. Okay. You keep to what works. There'll be fads. And the entrance at the top really annoys me because we've been through this 200 years ago. And now the people are saying, oh, put this huge insulation on, you don't need a hole at the top. Okay. And it's, you'll notice little stupid fads coming back and forth and back and forth, like insulating your hive or not insulating your hive. Some of these things have no effect. Okay, nothing. It's zero. But there'll always be some type of new thing that's already been done in the past. What works for us? Any other questions? How much can you make? Yeah. So if I look at my honey harvest, just purely on honey on 70 hives, I produce, it's difficult for me to say how much physical honey I produce because while you're extracting, I extract all the time from April all the way through to sometimes October. You're still extracting a little bit. September maybe is the final big batches. But I extract every single week all the way through. This year I had 8,000 pounds recorded. Okay, that's how much I had stored, 8,000 pounds. That is $80,000. Okay, but that doesn't include the honey that I've sold from when I started. So I'm bottling the same honey. So you probably will find that's over 9,000 pounds, $90,000 worth purely on the physical honey that you've extracted. Okay, now if you look at a beekeeping business, I've got comb honey. I'm not including that in the honey. I also have wax, candle wax. I also have cutouts. I also have selling nukes. So if you look from a beekeeping business perspective, if you build it up, it's worth your while spending money getting your business exactly as you want it, because it is worth something to somebody who wants to take over. One of the limiting factors as well is labor. If you're using your own labor, what is your labor costs? Can you increase? Can you physically do swarm prevention on 100 hives? See, that's one of what I find maybe the limiting factor here. So maybe you've got to be a little bit clever about it and maybe save on labor costs. In other words, you split your hive into two at the beginning of the season. You don't harvest as much honey. You invest more in the labors, in the woodware. So you have more woodware compared to just having huge hives, and you have less honey per hive, but it saves you. You don't have to do every day until they build up to the every week until they build up to critical swarming size. No, that's what the question is, can I sell 100% of my honey every year? The answer is no, not at the moment. But the longer I'm doing this, the more I have, the more my marketing builds up. Okay, so in other words, I've still got honey from a few years back, but I'm getting a lot better at building up. And in fact, I might start getting to a stage where I'm selling all the honey. So every year it gets better. So it's and that's the thing. If you're starting a beekeeping business, one of the essential things that you do is you will try and get your marketing. Let's say you've started off, you've got 2 hives, but now you want to retire in a few years' time. You want to increase that to 10 or 20 or 30. Okay. One of the key ingredients before you ramp up is go in and start selling honey. Buy fellow beekeepers' honey. Come to me, come to one of the other beekeepers and say, can I buy honey to get my honey selling, my marketing done before I ramp up with my own honey? Okay, that I think is probably one of the most important things. That's where I failed. Okay, I did it in a small extent. I bought a little bit from Warren Graham. I sort of built it up maybe 14 years ago. But within the first season, I had too much of my own honey. So that ramp up stage, buy local honey. What you also find is a lot of beekeepers will physically go to Dutch Gold and buy Chinese honey. And they will try add to their own honey with Chinese honey. We call Chinese honey, but it's foreign honey or commercial honey. So they'll be selling buckwheat, orange blossom, clover, and you can instantly say, yeah, that's fake honey. That's not local honey. It's very, very difficult to get clover honey in our area. Almost, I mean, I do get white clover honey, but you've got to know exactly what you're doing. You've got to know what it looks like, and you've got to isolate it from all the other honeys. So if somebody sells clover honey, you know that it's normally from Montana or North Dakota or somewhere, maybe even Canada, or maybe Argentina or one of those. So a lot of it is making sure that you have the genuine product. So you have genuine, local, natural, raw honey. And another thing that I do as well is, because I harvest all the time, I have specific honeys, varietal honeys. I know what black locust is. Okay, black locust honey is really distinctive. I harvest tulip poplar, and I almost guarantee you that very few people get tulip tree honey. I harvest purple dead nettle. That's a little, you find it in the lawn if you grow a little bit longer. I harvest that honey. I have Iliadnus honey. That's the Russian olive. So you have all these different types that you can sell at a premium. I have apple blossom honey. Has anyone ever tasted apple blossom honey? It's very, very difficult. I've got to have good weather. You can't buy it in the shops. I get it. I can tell you what that tastes. It doesn't taste like apples. But I get that honey from the pollination contracts. So all these different varietal honeys add to the value of what you can sell your honey for. Okay, and remember, keep it up, keep the records up, make sure everything's documented, because once you want to sell it, it's so much easier if you can hand it over as a lump sum with your markets, with everything else. So somebody can step into your shoes, and instead of losing 95% of your business by running your bees down, by you being inactive, you've got an exit strategy to get out of it, to sell everything to somebody who can follow on and employ your techniques and use your markets and so on. Okay, have I confused everyone now?
So you're just a hobbyist, you get 2 hives, you get a little bit of money.
What are you making? You've got to look, how much are you making? The rough ballpark figure, if you're making, let's say $500, you should be able to sell it for $1,500.
So,
So you really are selling it after, get that hive.
yeah, then if you want to sell your hives, the best thing to do is sell it beginning of the year. So if it's just purely hives that you want to sell, beginning of the year, and that's it. So choose the time. As I said, end of the season, like now, your hive's worth $100. The same hive in a few months' time is worth $400. And there are a lot of ways to cheat in this business as well. You can buy honey, you can buy beehives for $200 at the start of the season, bring them in, break them down into 4, and but that's not what we really want to do here. So it's and you can buy foreign honey as well, but that's what I call cheating. But
In this region, from your experience, is there sufficient advance for local?
yes,
Are we needing that?
we can improve on it. Like I sell my honey. I mean, if I did a lot better job at marketing, I would sell a lot more. But every year I do it, it gets better and better and better and better. So it's, but there is definitely, there are a lot of people selling local honey, and even some of our club members who buy Chinese honey. They're selling their honey and it's Chinese. And it might be even people that you know. So it's, so just be careful. If you're selling that pure article, you can sell it. And that's right, spend a bit of time. And I haven't gone into the social media side. There's a lot to sell with that. Go out and make money.
Make money, lots of money, lots of honey.
Don't give your honey away.
Steve Amalang sent out an invite to people about the Queen Team meeting, right? So we have a Queen Team meeting on November 17th, Wednesday the 17th at 7 p.m. To anybody who's on the Queen Team or anybody who wants to join the Queen Team next year, where we're going to be going over sort of our outcomes from this year. So if you're interested in joining the Queen Team for next year, look in your inbox or in your junk mail from a message from us. Okay, so that's just coming up on Wednesday the 17th, just as a FYI. Sharon, anybody have anything to share? Anyone bring anything to share?
What are these candy boards doing here?
Yeah, I brought some stuff to share.
Anybody still has their golf pencil? If
Oh,
you really
yes.
want to keep it, go ahead, but if not, please return it so we can use it again.
And before I start sharing, I'm going to have Greg come up and talk about a thing he wants to inform us about. So I don't know if you want to introduce yourself, Greg. And
Yeah. Good morning, everybody. My name is Greg Shelley. I moved back to Chester County in April and then joined this club right away. I'm relatively new to beekeeping. This is my 4th season. And my day job, I guess you could say, I'm the chair of the Department of Psychology and professor of psychology at Kutztown University. Since I've begun beekeeping, I've been fascinated by the variety. Yeah.
Cut to the chase.
Go to the chase. Just say it as it is. You know, we're a messed up bunch of people.
Ever since starting beekeeping, I've been fascinated by the variety of ways that people do this thing called beekeeping and the variety of personalities that exist within the beekeeping community. So I'm a personality and social psychologist by training, and I have the privilege of being given a year-long sabbatical where I can do research. And I'm hoping that you all would be interested in helping me with some of that research. I have an online survey that takes about 20 minutes or so. Mark did it already. It's not too painful, right?
Marginally painless, yeah.
It's a marginally painless survey. I can't tell you too much about it because it'll kind of give it away. But in the beginning of the survey, I ask you a few questions about how you approach your beekeeping practice. And then there are a series of personality and social psychology kinds of questionnaires. So I have in my pocket here, if I can get my gloves off, I have in my pocket here a bunch of little QR codes. If after the meeting you're interested in doing this survey, you just come up and hold your phone camera over the QR code and it'll take you to the link. And I also printed out a bunch of little pieces of paper. They're probably going to blow away in this wind. But they also have the QR code. You can take it home with you. And there's even a web link.
Just want one.
I just want one. there's a link to the website. It's an easier questionnaire to do on your computer than on your phone, but plenty of people are doing it on their phones as well. So my goal is ultimately to get as many beekeepers as I can to fill out this questionnaire. And then I'll be analyzing the data over the winter. And I hope that during one of the spring meetings, I'll be able to give a presentation about what I found. So it's nice to see everybody, and thank you in advance for your help.
So can people from, that were part of another beekeeping organization, can we take that information down?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for asking that. I was at the PA beekeeping meeting last weekend at Penn State, and I got a lot of people to fill it out there. That's when Mark filled it out. And a bunch of people, probably 60 people from Montgomery County Beekeeping Association have taken it because that club's president, Dan, sent it out to the membership. And I think George said he's going to send it out as an email or post it on the website or something like that. So yes, please invite any beekeepers that you know to do the survey. And particularly if you know any treatment-free beekeepers, I'm interested in their response. I know that's not a large percentage of the beekeeping community.
Big guy named Keith.
Yeah. So I'll put a couple of these over by the table. I don't want to put too many down because they'll probably blow away in the wind, but thank you in advance.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you.
How many responses do you think you need for some statistical validation?
Yeah, I think somehow I will get it up on the website or get it out via email, blast an email out to people. So I'm all for supporting whatever people are doing generally. So yeah. Anything other discussion? So this is our candy board. So this is just we're going to be making candy boards next Saturday at my place and maybe somewhere else. I'm not sure yet. It'd be nice if I could get somebody up north to do it too, potentially. The north people are back in that corner there. But so what this is basically just a big block of sugar that you put on top of the hive. So yes, it does take some propane, and you sit and you mix so much sugar with so much water, a little bit of vinegar, and then you pour it into basically shims, and then that sits on top of the hive. And it's like 15 or 20 pounds of sugar. And it's I didn't add any soy flour this year, so I'm not adding soy flour just because it's easier not, I think, and you can use some protein in February when they really need it instead of adding it to because it just makes it quicker to make. So the nice thing about a candy board as compared to some of the other feeds, it's a whole lot of sugar. So once you put this on the hive, you generally don't have to go back and worry about that hive, that there's so much sugar in this candy board that they're unlikely to eat it all. The other nice thing about candy boards is I assume this is some degree of insulation. So usually this will sit on top of the hive like so, and then you'll put a insulation board on top, and then your outer cover on top of that. So they're going to stay nice and warm like that. So if you are looking for something to do next Saturday, come out and make some candy boards.
Do we have to provide a shim?
So the question is what to provide. So I keep making a mess. You have to, usually you bring an inner cover. So bring an inner cover, and the CCBA usually provides the shims, or I usually provide the shims. I assume I'll be able to provide shims again this year. I just have to make them this week. So I just have to find a day to crank out some shims. So yes. And then you'll need to bring about 15 pounds of sugar per candy board, about that much. So you have to figure out how many candy boards you want to make. You need 15 pounds of sugar per candy board to make this.
Or 8 or 10 frame.
Either one,
Yeah.
Okay.
And an inner cover.
And an inner cover, yeah.
So if you have old beehive bodies that are, like they're corroded and part of it, you can't use it, broken down. This was mentioned on Bee Chat last night, that just basically cut 2 inches off that hive body, that's a shim. So with a bunch of old deeps you really don't want to use them because they're, maybe part of it is rotted away. You can reuse.
Yeah, these are 2 1/4 inch. These shims, they're probably a little deeper than I need, but that's what I did. So anyway, so that's next Saturday. I like candy boards. I think they absorb the moisture, they provide nice insulation. And again, you basically one time and you forget about it for the winter, which is nice. There's still fondant available, so if anybody needs fondant, go to the website. So this is going to be a little confusing because the first 2 pallets of fondant were 90-10, and then the third pallet that I ordered was 80-20. So that's going to cause a chaos when people come pick up their pallets of boxes of fondant, whether or not it's 90-10 or 80-20. But anyway, it's all good. That fondant is going to be picked up on the 19th, next Friday. So I hope that the 20th or that weekend, there'll be fondant available. So hopefully we'll have a fondant at my place and fondant up north, and people could go and pick up their fondant wherever they're closest to. So that was very kind of goods to come through for us with that. So anyway, what other show and tell does anybody have? Anyone have show and tell, or anyone want to talk about anything they learned this year in their beekeeping? Quiet crowd. You learn anything this year?
Oh, I learned something this week. I have a slatted rack on my hives, so that should be the lowest, right above the screen bottom board. And I was treating with oxalic acid, and I looked over my hives, and one of the slatted racks was up. So it had gotten stuck on the bottom deep, and when I put the super down below, it had inadvertently got raised to above the super. So I said, well, I got to take care of that. So I garbed everything up, smoked all the bees, and I just took the the outer lid off, put it on the floor, took the inner cover, put that next, took the top super, the top deep, put that down, second deep, put that down, took the super off, took the slatted rack off, put the slatted rack down where it is supposed to be, on top of the screen bottom board, then put the super, then put the first deep, then put the second deep, which was about 65 pounds, then put the inner cover back on. Then I took the lid and I flipped the lid over, and there's always a bunch of bees there. And I said, why does that one bee have a white spot on it? Always look. You never know where she's going to be.
But she was still moving, right?
She was still moving. I carefully slipped her back in the inner cover hole, and she went, oh.
So raise your hand if you're running top ventilation this year. That's the majority. And raise your hand if you're not running top ventilation. Wow. Okay. So I've always run top ventilation. So most of the time at the top of your hive, you'll have about a 5/8 inch or 3/4 inch hole at the top. And that would be for, bees to fly in and out of, and also for, as the warm air comes up from the hive, a way for it to escape so it doesn't condense on the top of the hive and drip down on the bees. So we've always run top, always been part of winterization is to run top ventilation. And this year I've gotten myself thinking, like, is that not Ed and a few other people have sort of convinced me, like, maybe with enough insulation at the top of the hive, you don't need that top ventilation. Maybe it's just causing heat to go out and causing the bees to use up more energy, So I'm running all my hives without top entrance and ventilation. So I personally, why is that a dumb idea? Can somebody, most people are running top ventilation. So why help someone explain to me, like, the reason why I'm not doing it is because I'm trying to have my bees use less energy, less stores, so I don't have to feed them an ungodly amount of sugar in the fall.
But you give them a candy board.
You're right.
It's an ungodly amount of
This is
Hopefully they won't need to use it, right?
Yeah. So help me understand, like, what.
Because it worked for me for 9 years.
Okay, that's one reason, right? Because I've done it for 9 years and my winter loss is less than 10%. So why not continue to do it? And that's great evidence, honestly, for not great scientific evidence, but it's great evidence, you know, you do what works for yourself. And I'm the same way, Carol. 9 years, as long as I've been in this club, I've had top ventilation, and I have 10%, you know, somewhere around that winter loss. So why do I want to change it? Because I want to try to not feed my bees so much in the fall.
Why don't you do 50%?
Because I'm an all or nothing guy. Either I'm all in or
So
I'm
they
all
could be
out.
all dead.
They could be all dead, you know, that's what I'm gonna report back if I'm no longer keeping bees.
So the reason that you would want top ventilation in the winter time is to give a method to expel the moisture that it's gonna build up from all.
I think that's the primary reason, right?
That is the primary reason. So if you've taken other measures to prevent that condensation from occurring on the bottom of the cover, such as your foam board,
Mhm.
it seems to me there is less of a need to provide that ventilation, because you're not gonna have that condensation build up.
Because
the air generating isn't gonna get underside of that.
Inversely, I think you also have less condensation. Just gonna take less energy to heat on.
True, right? Less water vapor because less carbohydrates consumed. Ray, why is this? Why should I put a hole back in the top of my hives?
Well,
That may be one reason, right? So go ahead, Ray.
I would recommend you read the hive. There's a section in there about thermal regulation and overwintering. That's a really good reference if you want to understand the mass balance. The other reason, and this is ongoing research, it's apparent that the bees naturally have a dormancy period. That dormancy period depends upon the environmental conditions that you keep bees. So with climate change, this is a big topic. If you also subscribe to the bee list, it's a listserv. Literally, most of the commercial beekeepers are debating this topic. Keith mentioned earlier, it's one of these fads that comes along as a result of climate change. So I think it's a really good experiment to try to understand in this climate. My observation is some bees just naturally respirate more. They also need to exhaust carbon dioxide. So one of the side effects of not having top ventilation and only one entrance is the fear is the bees are more efficient at fanning. You don't have to disturb them with the environmental convection currents through the nest. So there are pros and cons. And it's just interesting to me as an experiment to see if our climate here is conducive to super insulation, only have one bottom vent. Because that's what nature does, right?
Right. No.
But I think the dormancy period, at least my interest in biology, it's more about, do they really need deep sleep just like humans? Do we need REM sleep? Do superorganisms need to have that quiescent state?
Mm-hmm.
That's the sweet spot.
Interesting. Thanks, Ray. Right. Yeah, he was on Beat Chat one Friday. The author of that article showed up on Beat Chat and talked about the reason to maybe not have top ventilation and just go with the, I forget, does anyone remember his name?
John Goff.
Yes, from New Jersey, John. All of a sudden on Bee Chat, there's a guy who wrote the article in the American Bee Journal. I was like, hello.
We're famous.
You're famous. Please speak up. And somehow he was a club member. So he's a club member and he saw that the topic for Bee Chat was that. So he decided to log on. It was quite good. Yeah. And he kind of convinced me, maybe I'm, to not do this, but I agree, Carol. I mean, I've run top ventilation and it's always worked. So it's a little bit different this year. Anyone else doing any other experiments this year with their hives in the winter, or anything that they're doing that's kind of innovative? Tim, are you doing anything innovative with your hives this winter? No. Do you have top ventilation? Yes. Yes. Do you use this? Above a moisture board. So you have a moisture board and then this and top ventilation. And the moisture board. Got it. Wrap up. Okay, so thank you all for coming. Thank you all for voting. Please take some snacks home and stay tuned for the December meeting update. Excellent. Thanks, guys.